Good day, Lionhearts. If you see that rocket in front of me, you probably guessed he left Tennessee. Yep, I did leave Tennessee. There was something I wanted to do today. I've tried to do it 2 or 3 times, and it's only open a couple of hours a week, and it happened to be open today, so we're headed there now. That's right, we're back in Sweet Home Alabama. That's a good thing too, because this worked out perfect. A friend of mine just outside of where we're headed today wanted to meet up, and so we're gonna meet up with him in our next vlog. So we're headed to a town called Red Bay, Alabama today, and we're headed to the Red Bay Museum. Scenic bridge alert. All right, here's a little bit of our clue for today's vlog. We are going to a museum that has basically the most memorabilia of Tammy Wynette that there is. She was born Virginia Winnette Pugh, but as a little girl, she would go by the name Winnette all the time. And then when she started singing in country music, she hooked up with Billy Sherrill, and when they were getting ready to release some music, they decided to change her name to Tammy Wynette because she reminded him of Debbie Reynolds' character, Tammy. Let's go find this museum. We're pretty close. It's only open, to my knowledge, on Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 4. All right, we made it to Red Bay. Nice old town feel here. And I think we just follow the tracks to the museum. I'm pretty excited to see this museum because I got into Tammy's music from seeing the 70s movie 5 Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson. She did a lot of the songs in that, so this should be pretty cool to see. And here's Hotel Red Bay, right across from the museum. Here we are. So here, if you read this, you can not only see their hours, but right here in blue it says special display on Tammy Wynette. So let's take a look around. They consider this kind of her hometown, because even though she was technically living in Mississippi, she spent a bunch of time here, so they have a huge display, and this is all history from the town. They're Piggly Wiggly here in town, and kind of like walking back in time, so figured we'll work our way through here a little bit and then up to her display. Look, it's an old cash store. Definitely like going back in time. Big cheese cutter. Here was their Rexall counter here in town. Moved it into here. Yeah, so a little bit of Tammy's story is that her dad had a tumor and he passed away before she was even 1. So she didn't really know him, but one of his dying wishes is that Tammy learn music because he loved music so much. Here's the local theater. Back when they used to have a piano player play with the movie, was the Bay Theater. Look, they even got some of the light fixtures and everything. That's really cool. And the ticket booth right there. So Tammy's mother and her grandparents raised her, and since they lived on a cotton plantation, she was told she either had to cook for the workers or go out and work in the fields. So she chose to go work in the fields. And then ended up taking music lessons. She could play piano and guitar, and what is this, like the jail? Looks like a jail door, doesn't it? And she always dreamed of playing country music. Yeah, definitely a jail door. Wow, this really We got like a church in here. Wow. Very interesting museum. So she loved music and she loved playing basketball, but her grandpa didn't want her to play because he didn't approve of the basketball uniform until they got elastic. So then she could play, and eventually when she was a senior and she turned 17, she married a guy in town just basically to get out from her family's strict rule, basically was the deal. And he was a bootlegger, not a real good guy, but she ended up having a couple of kids with him right away, and then wanted to start singing. So they moved to Memphis and she started singing a little bit there, and then they moved to Alabama and she wanted to go audition for a TV station, and he said, "Dream on, baby." So she went and did it anyway, got hired, started making 30 bucks a week, and then ended up taking off to Nashville and ended up leaving him, and then found out she was pregnant again, the third child. So she was a single mother of 3, ended up living in like a housing project. So now we're gonna go see Tammy's stuff up here. There is no official Tammy Wynette museum anywhere. This is the closest thing there is. I noticed up here when I got upstairs there's a case with some Waylon stuff, and noticed that it's Jerry Bridges, his bass player, and the guy that basically kind of road managed him. He's from here. So that's his tour jacket and his tour pass, his gold record from the Dukes of Hazzard theme song, his platinum from the greatest hits of Waylon, some discography notes and stuff here, some of the stuff from tour, and he donated this, well, loaned this guitar that he had some of his favorite signs. So up here at the top is Travis Tritt, then we have Dwight Yoakam and Lyle Lovett right underneath there, and then down here in the bottom it's John Anderson on top, George Jones in the middle, and Chet Atkins on the bottom, and then over here is Leroy Parnell. So just beyond the House of Music sign is the largest collection of Tammy Wynette memorabilia anywhere on display. Her drum majorette uniform, and then down here we have a picture of her. She was in school in 1956-57. And then here are some Tammy Wynette and George Jones pillows. And all this stuff was loaned or donated by either family members that still live here and friends that remember her, or her daughters, or private collectors. Now here you can see part of the gate that was from her house in Nashville, the 4021 address. Main sections of the gate are displayed at the Tammy Wynette Legacy Center in Tremont, Mississippi. So we may have to check that out at some point. Then here we have her Sony jacket. She's considered the queen of country music because she was the first female to sell 1 million records. That was a big deal because it was kind of a boys club up until then. Just people like Kitty Wells and, you know, very few female country superstars of the day. And you can see that outfit right there she's wearing up in the wedding photo. How cool is that? And then this jacket right here is a Donna Karan jacket that Tammy owned, and she gave to her daughter Gwen, who donated it to this museum. And Gwen's wearing it in this photo down here on the far right. And then this suit on the left was worn by her guitarist Rick Merrill, and the outfit on the right was her backup singer, Sue Richards. Here's one of the original acetates you can see with the handwritten writing and everything on there for her The Ways to Love a Man song, and this was given to the local Red Bay disc jockey, Tommy Bolton. So here, look at some of the posters. So she basically broke out when she moved to Nashville. She did that TV show that I told you about in Birmingham, where she was getting that $30, and then she ended up getting discovered to be on the Country Boy Eddie show. That's where she really started to make it. Homecoming concert. Tammy and George. So then she married somebody else. She was lonely. She had been taking her kids on the road and realized that was a bad idea, so she was lonely and married a guy, and they didn't really get along too well, but he introduced her to George Jones, and she started doing shows with George and got along great with George. And then one night her band quit on her, and George made his band fill in, and she basically fell in love with him from there. Holy cow, look at all this stuff. This is great. So much stuff here. Some great pictures of her. And then these are seats from her private airplane. One is a toilet seat that was behind a curtain on the plane. Her pilot, Bernie Lenz, is shown in the black and white print over here with her plane that they came out of. And that was it. And here they have her scrapbooks and some of her awards. This is her 1969, this one right here, 1969 Top Female Vocalist Award, the Academy of Country Music, and this one was for 1999, 30 years apart. Some of her boots. Even had an electronic dance hit later in life. Now this display over here is most all of her major record releases, all the album covers. That is a lot of records. You can see a couple right here when she was married to George. From, I think she was married to him from 69 to 75. So they fell in love basically on the road, and one day George Jones came over to her house and her husband got into a fight, and George pulled out a gun and said, "I love Tammy and Tammy loves me, and we're getting out of here." And he took Tammy and the kids and they left for good. And this was her husband at the time, Don Chappell. That's who George took her from. Now this is a picture of Tammy with her first husband, Upel Bird, the guy that said "Dream on, baby" when she said she wanted to be a singer. Years later, she'd be honored at the White House, and while she was there, he was in the crowd and came up to her and asked her for an autograph, and she signed the autograph, "Dream on, baby." And here's her marriage license to George Jones. You can see it says George G. Jones and Virginia W. Bird. So look at the gates. These are from George Jones and Tammy Wynette's property. This one has the big G right here, and then the J going like that. And this one has the T and the W. Let me show you. So you can see the bend in the G right there, and the J, and then over here is the top of the T and that W. So let's enter the gates in here and see what else is in here. Oh wow, Tammy tour jacket, tour 1988, and there's Tammy at the White House with Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan. There's a painting. So when she was first married and she had the first 2 kids, she went to beauty school by the age of 20 just in case things didn't work out. She wanted to have a profession, so she was a licensed beautician till her death. So here, take a look at some of these costumes. This first one is actually George Jones' suit, and it was made, it's kind of hard to get without the lighting and everything. It's kind of weird, but it was made by Manuel, who is a protege to Nudie and it was custom made for George. And then this red one, really nice. They actually have a photo of her wearing that at a concert. I'll show you. But the next one, the silver one, was made by Nudie. Made by Nudie Cohn, who was probably the most famous country tailor there was. He made stuff for Marty Stewart, Porter Wagoner, George Jones, Hank Williams, Elvis Presley, you name it. His most famous creation was the Elvis Presley suit, of course. But here's the picture of Tammy wearing that red dress right here. Take a look at this. This was Tammy's outfit for the early 70s, and she's they have a picture of her wearing it in Lakeland, where she and George had an outdoor theater and they used to hold shows. She gave the dress to Tanya Tucker, who later sold it to an auction, or through an auction. But here's her wearing it and performing with George on their property in Lakeland. And then I think this is a joke thing, because this was a big deal where like Hillary Clinton was accused of being the like stand by your man. She claimed she wasn't and was offended by that, and then had to apologize because when she said that, Tammy was offended. Because Tammy said, I spent 20 minutes writing that song and spent 20 years having to defend it. She's like, it wasn't meant to be an anti-feminism song, it was just meant to be a love song. So even though Tammy had 3 kids to take care of when her career first started to take off, she had a couple of hits, she called her mom, who was still working in the cotton fields, and told her to come live with her. So her mom did, and this painting right here was done by her mom, Mildred. Pretty cool. And here's a picture of her mom at one of Tammy's shows. Check out that old show sign from the Hollywood Theater at MGM, starring Tammy. And here's one of her tour jackets. She's a phenomenal talent. Sadly, she ended up passing away while watching TV. She had like a blood clot and passed away. Glenn Campbell. Here's some various tickets from performances and announcements for different shows. See, I always thought she was kinda mostly from Tupelo. But even after her and George Jones divorced, they still made music together and had a hit with Two Story. That's a great song if you've never heard it. There's a folded up t-shirt signed by her. And here's some more Tammy stuff. Look at this. That's definitely like a early 80s type shirt. And then another. And then this is a Bob Mackie studio sketch, who did one of these for Tammy. It was supposed to be something he was working on for, but he never completed it. There's a really young photo of her and her career. And then this was something she loved. She did something called Honky Tonk Angels. It was Tammy, Dolly, and Loretta. Then you can see this one's also signed right over here to the right. Wow, now take a look at that, her fur. After her and George dated, she ended up going out with Burt Reynolds for a while. And this gold album was given to Burt's parents for their 50th anniversary by Tammy when they were dating. The inscription on it reads, "The years you've been together have been special ones, I know. The year marks the 50th, with many more to go. Congratulations on this day. I wish you both the best. May every day be filled with love, good luck, and happiness. Love, Tammy Wynette, 9/26/1976. And they used to say she was never happy unless she was in love. Now look at this. There's a little Play Horsey that she signed. And here's another one of her fur coats. And some of her awards down here. As well as a couple of pieces of her jewelry. A ring and a bracelet. And part of what the jewelry's all about is that she had her own jewelry collection that they used to sell. So here's another case of her clothing. And this is great because they have a picture of her wearing pretty much everything. So take a look at that one. Pretty ornate. That is pretty cool. Just a lot of work put into it. And there she is with George, and she's wearing it there. And there she is right there. This was made by Susie Cream Cheese. She also designed clothes for Cher and Elvis. And then here, this pink and white outfit that she's wearing right here was something that she wore in 1991 when she was on tour. And they have it right here. And then here is a nice white one, kind of lace, two-piece style. And then here she is wearing it right there in that photo. And then this one, this like pantsuit deal that they have on display. This was what she wore in May of 1997 on her last appearance on the Grand Ole Opry. It was a Donna Karen outfit. She seemed to love those. And it was later auctioned off and loaned to the museum here. Now here it says that Tammy was a very giving person, including her clothes and other personal items to her family and friends. The pink housecoat over here to the left was used by her granddaughters to play dress up. The silk pajamas right over here were given to her daughter Gwen, and the red fringe blouse down here, it says, were given to her cousin Jane Williams. The scarf and pin right over here were given to her other cousins, as well as the black shoes down here. And then there's her makeup kit she gave to Gwen. Now I saved one of the best cases for last. This one's dedicated to her life with George. So here we have, I mean, gosh, it almost looks like a wedding dress. Almost. Look how elaborate that is. But it says that she wore it in England and ended up giving it to her daughter Gwen. But they have pictures of her wearing it right here at those performances in England. And there's the George Jones Tammy Wynette family Christmas card. You can see Tammy holding little baby Georgette. This note to the left is signed by Tammy, and it's on Jones Bay Enterprises letterhead that represented both George and Tammy. And one of George's hats. George was a heavy drinker in those days and was a violent drinker. So even though they really loved each other a lot, these were Georgette's little shoes. She would wear these when they would bring her out on stage sometimes. Even though Tammy really loved George a lot, she didn't want to divorce him because, well, for one, she loved him, but also she thought, you know, the fans would turn on her because he was so beloved. And then when she did divorce him, she was harassed for like 9 months. People broke into her house, prank called her like 20-30 times a day. Somebody set part of her house on fire, cut her security alarms. It's crazy. There's the Tammy Wynette Show jacket. And look at the patch on there. How cool is that? First Lady Tour, and has her name on the front of the bus. George Jones Show. George and Tammy standing out in front of their house. Old Plantation Music Park, home of George Jones and Tammy Wynette plate. And there's like a magnet from the same place. This was their attempt at like a home life from being on the road. It's a pretty famous photo of Tammy and George, and they actually have that purple dress here. That was when they were on the Johnny Cash show, which filmed at the Ryman. She ended up giving this dress to her backup singer Paula. So there it is. Pretty iconic dress. And then Paula loaned it to the Red Bay Museum. This painting up here used to hang in Tammy's house for years, it says. She later gave it to her daughter Gwen, who donated it to the museum, and it shows Nashville skyline at night and actually shows the radio station WKDA, one of the ones she got her start with. Really cool museum. It's unfortunate it's only open 2 days a week, but it's totally worth it to plan a trip to come here around that. And that was actually a shot from when they were doing her Womanhood album cover. One of the alternate photos. Just seeing this gate is one of the coolest things ever, plus all her clothes, but the George Jones, Tammy Wynette, Lakeland gates. Wow, it's worth it just to see those. But I think that's gonna do it for us here. Fantastic collection. Well, my friends, I think we're gonna call it a day. That was a fantastic collection. It was only $5 to see all that. Highly recommend it if you're gonna be anywhere near Tupelo. It's about 45 minutes away from Tupelo. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.